Morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Friday, the fourth week of Devtoberfest. Friday means it's CAP day, and I'm joined for this first session on Friday to kick us all off in the right direction by none other than the one and only Dr. David Kuntz, Dev on Duty. I'll put in the chat why I've just said Dev on Duty. He's got an awesome YouTube channel and loads of great content there. So when I've stopped talking, I'll put the URL in. So David, welcome first of all.
Thanks. Hey, DJ. Hey, everybody.
Cool. Well, it's so great to have you here. David's going to be talking about agentic coding with CAP. And in fact, we were just laughing before because I just realized I had a logo, like a clothing brand logo on my jumper because it's quite cold here on the boat at the moment. So I put a CAP logo on instead, which of course is, very appropriate. And, what else do you need in life? A CAP sticker on your jumper. So without further ado, welcome everybody to the live chat. Put your comments, say hello. Ajay's in the chat. I can see already Ajay was with us this morning. Ajay's been organizing all these CAP sessions for Devtoberfest. So yeah, put your questions in the chat, your comments, your thoughts. I will relay them to David as and when appropriate and possible. So why don't we start? So I think I'm going to ask David to sort of maybe guide us in by sort of maybe contextualizing it for people like me who, okay, know a little bit about large language models and generative AI, and I'm not quite sure what agentic coding might be. And certainly I've got an idea that MCP is Model Context Protocol, but how does that whole thing fit together? I know you've got a couple of slides, but most of it is going to be some sort of, not some sort of, that sounds very vague, sorry. It's going to be live demo and everything. So David, why don't you sort of glide us into land first of all?
Yeah, sure. Perfect. Let me just share my screen and then I can back up what I'm talking with some slides. So it's about agentic coding with CAP, and many people call it vibe coding. I hate the term because if you actually read the tweet of Andrej Karpathy, it says vibe coding is it's mostly good for throwaway weekend projects, and we're all serious business developers. So we should review our code. So we can use AI to generate it and help us a bit, but we are in the driver's seat and we have to review and we have to code. So agentic coding, that's the proper term in my opinion. Yeah, so in the past couple of years, there have been various AI assistant tools which developers use. It all started back in 2022 with ChatGPT, and it was this kind of conversational AI where you would chat with the LLM, and it was tuned with reinforcement learning for this conversational style thing, and as opposed to being an instruct model. So you can chat with it, you can ask it about generating code snippets, you can put code snippets in there, ask about it, get some feedback. When there are errors, you would manually copy paste the error back in and get some feedback, and it can fix itself and things like that. So that was the start of all it. Then at some point, GitHub Copilot came out, which was then now within your editor or IDE, where you would get code completions, which appeared as if they would read your mind. Blew my mind quite a lot of times. I don't know about you, DJ, if you were also impressed by the quality of those suggestions sometimes. You're mute, DJ.
I'm used to going on mute. Sorry, it does remind me that of Arthur C. Clarke, sort of futurist and an amazing science fiction author. I think he said, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly how I consumed it, or perceived it. It is magic, plain magic. And then in I think February this year, Cloud Code got released, and that was now the pivotal moment for AI to conquer all IDEs, editors, terminals, because it was not the first time, but the most successful approach of having this agentic loop, where the AI would, or the LLM would constantly generate tool invocations, which then Cloud Code would execute, like terminal commands and stuff like that. and it would really have those end-to-end flows of editing text, running the app, figuring out the error, fixing itself, and so on. It could run for tens of minutes or even longer, half an hour even. And in the end, you would have something which is not bad, and so that really blew everybody's mind off. DJ, have you ever used any of those assistants?
I think I've used ChatGPT, Copilot. I've sort of maybe I'm too much of a Luddite, or I'm just too worried about losing my ability to think for myself. So I've resisted the temptation. I'm an old-fashioned coder, so I hate IntelliSense. I hate things that are suggested in my editor for me anyway. They just get in the way and distract me. So Copilot, no, not so much.
But it also works with NeoVim, so you could.
It works with NeoVim, but I hate it in NeoVim as well.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and then Cloud Code usually runs. So these agentic AI systems, they usually run in the terminal. It started with Cloud Code, but there are also Codex and others. Even Copilot also has an agentic mode, which now also runs in the terminal with the Copilot CLI tool. So the move is towards the terminal, which I think makes you quite happy.
It certainly does. It certainly does.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so what is this CAP MCP server all about? So we all know that there's this big brain, the LLM, the large language model, GPT-5, Code, GLM, DeepSeek, whatever you use. And the main problem is it is trained on a vast pool of internet knowledge, but then it's in the weights and it will not change unless you fine tune it or retrain it or do something with it. But it's fixed, right? There's no knowledge. Whenever you chat with your LLM, it doesn't improve. It doesn't remember things unless it stores it somewhere and reads it as context, what ChatGPT does. But it doesn't learn. It stays as it is. And the question is, how do we bring CAP knowledge in? Because in the end, you want to use the LLM for CAP development or UI5 development. And how do we bring all those API knowledge or even your project information, which the LLM hopefully doesn't even know about? How do we bring that into the LLM? Because without that knowledge, many things won't work, right?
The really interesting thing, David, is that I only found out, or I only decided to look up the other day what GPT actually stands for, and it's generative pre-trained. Right, and the key thing there is pre-trained. So as you say, it's not going to suddenly have more knowledge because it's retrained itself on between years 2023 and 2025. So the MCP servers, from what you've said so far, I guess are sort of bringing domain-specific knowledge of certain things, as well as sort of bolstering what is already there and what the gaps are.
Exactly. Pre-trained is the exact keyword, generative pre-trained transformer. And pre-trained really means it's fixed. You cannot change it. You cannot adapt it unless you use LoRa, fine-tuning and stuff like that, but it's fixed for you. For us mere mortals, it is fixed. So many companies have this problem. Turns out that they want to bring in knowledge or give it access to tools to be more useful than just text in, text out. And there's this model context protocol, MCP, and I see it a bit like the language server protocol. It's a editor and IDE agnostic way of communicating between different systems. In this case, it's the so-called MCP client. That would be Cloud Code, Codex, or what I use, OpenCode. And this client talks to the LLM, sends prompts, retrieves the answers back. And this MCP client also has now access to a lot of tools like file system tools, web APIs to do some searches. And now also this CAP.js MCP server, which you can download on the internet. So CAP.js.
I've just shared. In fact, I've just shared the URL in the chat as well, so people should go there and have a look at that.
Yeah. So it's on NPM. It's open source. You can also check out the GitHub repository if you find any issues. There's open issues there. I'm eagerly waiting for any problems. And yeah, you can definitely try it. So what does this MCP server do? Very simple. Two tools which you need to know. First one, search model, which gives the LLM access to your compiled CDS model, including a few more advanced things like service endpoints where your entities are served and things like that. So the LLM knows about your entities, about your elements of your existing project, about which entities are exposed in which services, how they relate to each other, what are the compositions, and so on. This is crucial information if you write, for example, custom handlers. If you do not know what your model looks like, you can forget about it, right? At some point, you have to trigger some queries, retrieving data, and for that, you need to know how the model looks like. Essential information. And for sure, the LLM, the stock LLM, which you get from OpenAI or wherever, does not know your model. So it has to be fed in. And the other tool is search docs. That's also important because there are a lot of APIs, the query API, CDS syntax. Much of it LLMs already know. So if you go to chatgpt.com and say, generate me a CDS model, most of the time it more or less works. There are some advanced features which the LLM doesn't often wrong. For example, bound actions, bound functions, enums, that usually goes wrong.
So, I think yeah. To be fair, that actions and functions are sort of, I've always seen those as orthogonal to the purity of the OData protocol anyway, right? So I mean, we sort of can give it a little bit of leeway here.
Right. But in this example, what I'm going to show you, I will have bound actions just to prove the point that it's still possible to use LLM even for that. Okay, but before I go into technical details, I will directly go into the demo. Because then you also know what this is all about. So I am here in a completely empty directory. And whenever I give such a demo where I start from scratch, people also ask, yeah, but I already have an existing project. Can I use it also in existing project? Absolutely. It's just for you to know from start to finish what that project is about. So
maybe one or two more bump the font a bit, maybe bigger the font, please, David.
Big. Okay.
Yeah. Perfect. Look at that.
Perfect. Okay, good. So first thing I do is start open code. This is my preferred AI client, which talks to the LLM. In this case, it's Cloud Sonnet 4. I know there's 4.5, but I use 4. Don't have access yet here. And I already enabled the CAP MCP server. I can also show you how that looks. It's not
perfect. And while you do that, this basically the open code is the box in the middle on your previous diagram.
Right, exactly. This guy here, this guy. So it talks to the LLM, executes all the code the LLM generates using the tools it has, like terminal commands, things like that, and also our MCP server. And the way you configure it is they all have different configurations. Don't ask me why. I hate it. I wish there would be kind of a standard. Maybe there will be in the future. I hope so. But at the moment, it's always dependent on the client you use. In open code, you have this MCP section in your settings JSON. And what you plug in is the binary CDS MCP. You install it globally from npm. You have the binary, put it in there. That's it. Not much magic happening here. And if you would try it to start it like that, then it wouldn't do anything because it's a server. It's for AI. You can also run the tools. For example, you can.
Yeah, there's sort of so basically when you run it like that, it's standard I/O basically as input output, but you can also run it. You can run certain MCP servers remotely. I'll connect to them remotely, right?
Exactly. You can run it locally. Some MCP servers also work remote. They run on different systems, but this one is completely local. And I built it in a way that you can also run those tools manually because they are also used by themselves. If you want to search the docs, you say CDS MCP, search docs, found actions, and it's a semantic search, so it's not a keyword search, which is nice. And then you get the results on how bound actions work, and you get some code snippets. So it's tuned for code snippets that I have mentioned. The search docs functionality, you do not get Capire, the CAP documentation, but you get the code snippets of Capire with some explanatory text, because it turned out this is the most important part for code generation. You want to have snippet examples. Yes. So I transformed Capire into snippets and text, such snippets with a link to the actual source and things like that. And that for the AI is perfect. They don't want text; they want snippets, just like
I have two questions here, if that's okay. Sure. So I noticed, I was looking at the code of this, and I noticed that I think also there are some sort of secret resources on Capire, right? So that is that what they're generated ready for this to use?
Yeah, it's not so secret. It's plain Capire. In fact, there's this LLM's full text, which is whole Capire as a markdown file, right? So what I did, I transformed this whole. So this is one-to-one Capire, but as markdown. and I transformed it into a snippet collection with
Beautiful.
explanatory text. Yeah, so
Beautiful.
that's
And the second question was, what's the second parameter that when you run it manually?
Yeah, how many results I want. I can also have pool results.
Ah,
Yeah, so
perfect.
depends how much you trust this semantic search. Okay, but let's get started now with open code. So we want not to use those tools manually. We're lazy. We want the AI to use them. So I can say use CDS MCP server to create a new CAP project in this current directory. And just one remark, this use CDS MCP server is usually not necessary. You can just say what you want and it will use it automatically for most of the cases. But some knowledge the AI already knows and it's not necessary, it just does it without consulting our MCP server. So with this hint, I can force it somewhat to use it so you understand how that works, this interaction between MCP and the LLM. This command the LLM could also do by itself.
Is that also related to the rules? There are certain rules you can store in files.
So what you also can do is you can create an agents MD file, which luckily is now standardized across most AI agents like Cloud Code, Open Code, and you can write rules. Always use CDS MCP server for everything. And of course, it depends what you do, what kind of rules you want to put in, but it helps to make it a bit easier. I think I would need to restart it for it to have an effect, but doesn't matter. So what happened? It was rather quickly. So let me scroll up again. So here's my prompt. Then the LLM figured out, hey, it might make sense to use CDS MCP according to my prompt, and it will call the tool which we just invoked manually, the search docs tool. It will search for create new CAP project. And now you also know why it has to be semantic search and not keyword search, because the LLM tends to just ask what it wants to know in English text, and the keywords might differ. It knew about CDS in it, so it already searched for it, but it's not needed. It would find it anyway. And then it gets a few code snippets. The result, by the way, in open code is only an extraction. So the whole response is much bigger than this. And from that, it gets all the information it needs to understand what needs to be done to create a new project. It correctly figured out that it's CDS init, one of those commands we provide in our CDS tooling, and it will already execute it. So it's not like I have to copy paste the command, the LLM spit out. No, I just let it do its thing. It executed it and gives me a nice summary of what it did. So if I look now in the directory, I have a CAP directory. I mean, it's not sophisticated. There's not much in it. But it's a start, and I can now continue working. So now I can use CDS MCP to add an entity orders. Let's see what it does. So it's always non-deterministic. Same prompt always gives different examples. Now it searched the docs again. What are entities? How do I define them? Give me examples. Yep. And it comes out with something. So it looks nice. What it also now does is, after it created it, it used the other MCP tool called search model. I don't know why it did it, because it just wrote the entity, so it should know about it.
But it was just checking its own work, right?
yeah, maybe it was checking. Yeah, verify. Yeah, you're right. It's verifying that it works by using the other tool. It could have also used the CDS compiler. Sometimes it does it. And yeah, it works, and it gets the compiled version of what it just wrote. So
we're looking at season
that it works. Say again?
We're looking at season now.
Yeah, this is pretty much season. It's a slightly enhanced season because I mixed a little bit more information, for example, endpoint paths and things like that, to make it a bit more easier for the LLM. But yeah, it's practically season, what you know, including also file locations. There's a special compiler flag, which you can set, a compiler option, to give you also access to the file locations of that stuff. So the LLM also knows where to change it in case it needs to change it. So all this is it. And now it gives a nice summary. I created this entity. I have this namespace, my bookshop, and it uses CRD managed from sub-CDS common, which probably it found in the documentation. So it's good practice to use this. Has a nice UID key and nice stuff. So what I don't like is the status. So I like enums. So make status an enum. Use CDS MCP for the syntax. That's one of those features. plain stock LLMs usually struggle. But with that, it quickly searches the docs with our MCP server, knows how the syntax is, and then it's absolutely no problem to generate it in CDS. And this is correct syntax. It might be so. The typical mistakes is maybe a string is missing, or enum is at the wrong spot, or this default value doesn't have a hashtag. I'm not saying the CDS syntax is always super, I don't know, for newcomers, super nice to use. Sometimes it's a little bit weird for the right reasons, by the way. But yeah, sometimes plain LLM struggle, but with the MCP server, it's not a big problem. They get a.
I mean, to be fair to the syntax, it's doing a lot of heavy lifting for us, isn't it?
Right. So the hashtag, for example, is misleading, but it has a purpose because you only want those valid properties, and so it makes sense, and you get code completion and things like that. So it's helpful, but you have to know about it. And now the LLM knows about it. So now it validated it again with the other function. It goes so quickly, by the way, this is a matter of a few seconds, but I'm talking so much. And it also uses compile to JSON to validate it again, because apparently it's very, very afraid of errors, but yeah, it works. So let's scroll through the whole thing. You can also create a new conversation, and then nothing is spam. So that's nice. Okay, so next thing I want to do is I also want to have order items. So create also order items, because usually there are some items for your order. The business case doesn't make sense. It's just one of those examples, just to show you how to get going. Now, since it's a new conversation, it doesn't have much context. It has to check the project again, uses our tools, search model, to find, hey, what's the current model? Where should I add those order items to? We'll figure it out, knows where the files are, and now it does it. Now it has a composition of order items. I think it also searched for composition and association and what the difference is there. That's also where LLMs usually struggle in this distinction, but in this case, it's not a problem. All right, and yeah, so now it also generates CSV files. I haven't asked for it, but I would have done it anyway, so why not? You have to be a bit careful with your prompts, because if you're not precise, then it just does what it thinks is best, which in this case apparently is creating test data. Fine for me.
I love those sequential UUIDs. It's like weird.
Yeah, right. And now it also figured out, hey, I don't have access for it, so it creates now service definitions. That's also something I would have asked, and yeah, and now it can validate itself. What's also nice, what I also like, let me just reopen it. I can also run this server myself in another terminal window, and I can say app is running on 4.4, search.
Oh, that's nice.
Model for entities and fetch orders. And then I can talk to my running CAP application. It can send HTTP requests to my CAP app and get the results. In this case, it searched the model first for the endpoints, and now you can see the fetch command here for orders. It gets the results, and now this is actual data from my CAP app, so I can ask about it. Also expand on items. I can say because I want the full picture, not just the order header, but also the items. And now it probably triggers an OData expand call, or I don't know what it did, but it figured out the items.
Would we be able to ask it to tell us what the call was that it was going to make, or would we just look for that in the log of the CDS server on the other screen?
Say again, I didn't get the first part.
Would we be able to ask it to tell us, maybe before it did it, or as it was doing it, what the actual OData URL was? You know, you mentioned the $expand phrase.
Sure. That it will print out, yeah. So it was this one. Expand items. So I could scroll up or just ask it. Yeah. So it's really nice. I promised I would put the bound action. So add bound action to set the status to delivered, or whatever the value was, because I don't remember. But it can now figure it out. So it will now probably consult the documentation. I'm not sure if it did in this case.
The,
I
the
think it
really interesting
didn't.
thing is
Yeah,
that
yeah. That was.
go ahead,
Sorry to interrupt.
David, go ahead.
Yeah, so here it's nice. So it's wrong syntax. This is not correct. That's not what I want. But actually, let me fix that. And now it will fix it. Not sure if it's correct now. Probably, yeah. Looks correct. Let's see again. Extend orders with actions that delivered. Okay, that's fine. It also already created the custom handler with the right syntax. One thing which is usually a bit weird, it has a return statement, even though this bound action doesn't return anything. It doesn't make it kaput. It still works, so I let it slide. So let's see. There are still some problems. Use CDS MCP for syntax, I can say, because it kind of made a mistake and tries to fix itself without help. So I say, hey, we have an MCP server, just consult it, and hopefully it will search for the right thing and how querying works, and then it knows the syntax of how this works. So now I have the correct syntax. It says, let me fix the implementation. And now it uses rec subject, which is one of our newer APIs, which is nice to use. So now we can try it again. Now it sends the post request to this action to test it if it works. It also runs the system. Here, there are sometimes problems. So I can say a server is running on for already. Maybe it missed that. Oh, I stopped the server. So now the server is running.
So basically, it's ahead of you.
It's ahead of me. It's ahead of me. It's the better developer. What shall I say? So let me start a new conversation because it hang and call the bound action set delivered to test it. Now, let's see if it can figure it out. So I hope the AI is not too busy with the other prompts, because sometimes there are too many prompts at the same time, and then it gets queued and it's a bit slow.
That's okay. Well, while we're waiting for this, we've got a couple of questions. I'll ask one that might be a shorter one to answer for now from Harsha. For validating the MCP servers, which of the testing tools would you recommend? Now, Marian's given an answer, but maybe you would like to also talk about that. Which of the testing tools would you recommend for validating the MCP servers?
To validating MCP servers, or to validate that what the LLM spits out in the context of CAP is correct?
Oh, that's a very good distinction. I mean, for example, Marian says that you can use the MCP inspector by Anthropic, but I'm not familiar with that, so I don't know the distinction from the question.
So what I like to do is, whatever tools I design, I make sure that they are also callable by API, by an API manually, and then I just write automated tests the same as for any other function. And then at the end, I only have a very thin layer where I connect those APIs to the MCP protocol, and I'm done. I will write one integration test to test it end to end, and all the other tests are just calling the API.
Okay, cool. Okay, so, and Harsha just confirms that it's about validating the responses.
Right.
Exactly. Thank you.
So the LLM was a bit stuck, but it's not a problem. I restarted it. Yeah, so now it searches for action. It didn't find it for whatever reason. And yeah, it will go on. But since we only have 2 minutes left, so the bound action, I think, will work fine. So I'm confident that this works. If not, it can fix itself. But for now, let me also give a little bit of some background information of how it works under the hood. So search model, the one function which gives you information about the compiled model, super easy. We already have the CDS tools. We compile everything using CDS compile. And then I created a modified Levenstein algorithm to fuzzily search for the names of the definitions. So the LLM can search, let's say, for orders, and will find the orders entity. It can also filter by entity, by definition types, like entity, services, things like that. And it gets the results, which are the definitions.
I'm just going to interrupt for a second to give you more time. Basically, we've got, I mean, I've just checked on the Devtoberfest calendar. The next session isn't until, isn't for a while. So we can go over into, up to a maximum of an hour. So.
Oh, awesome. Perfect. I can talk forever. So search docs is the function which is quite nice implementation-wise. So the search docs function. I invoked it manually before. It allows you semantic search, and semantic search is the important bit here. So if you think, how would semantic search work under the hood? Then the answer is not really simple. It's not a keyword search. So with a keyword search, if you, I don't know, search for how do I define CAP tools in a CDS model, then it's not really clear, or you will not get any results because it's not called tool, but actually action or function, right? So depending on how you search, you might not find it because you used the wrong keyword, and that's not really great. It's actually quite bad. And LLMs, they know a lot. They know a lot of right keywords, but sometimes they also wrap it around in some. They don't perform a keyword search. Usually they perform some, how do I define bound actions as opposed to bound actions. So for them, it's a little bit trickier to find the respective context. So how does semantic search work? And the trick is to also use big models, which were pre-trained on all kinds of text, to transform words into a vector in a space which is kind of a semantic space. Meaning, what do I mean with that? If you have two words, let's say thinking of some words which are different but very similar in meaning. For example, house and building. Okay, so we can all agree they're semantically close together, right? It's not like house and I don't know, pizza. That would be semantically very far away, but house and building are very close. So the way it works is you define this high dimensional vector space. It has about 380 dimensions, or there are different models with different sizes, but it has a lot of different, a lot of dimensions. And mathematically, by the way, you can make it so, or you can prove that the higher the dimensions, the more vectors you can create, which are orthogonal to each other, or near orthogonal to each other. Orthogonal means far away, not close together, right?
So you can define basically at a right angle too. You could say. Right.
And so they can define this vector space in a way, or this transformation into this vector of float numbers, in a way that semantically similar words are at a similar position in this vector space. That means if you have two vectors and you calculate how similar those vectors are, you can use the cosine similarity, which is a dot product for those math guys of you. You create a dot product, and then you know if the arrows point in the same direction, more or less, or are close, point to the same point. Then you can calculate the similarity. How similar are those two vectors? Or in other words, how similar are those two words? And then it would turn out that building and house are closer together than building and pizza. And that's a superpower, because what we can then do is we can transform whatever you search for into an embedding. And then we can also transform all the knowledge we have, all those chunks we have, into embeddings. And then we just compare those embedding vectors by cosine similarity. And the closest ones we return as the right result. That's how it works. That's how it works. And that's what CAP does, or the CAP MCP server does. And the greatest thing about it, it's all running locally on your machine. So there's no hosted embeddings database somewhere in the cloud where you have to send requests. No, it's running locally. You have a kind of a big, small language model, 80 megabytes or so, on your machine when you download CAP MCP server. And then it uses this local model on your machine, it's a WebAssembly version, to create those embeddings and then calculate the difference of the already stored embeddings to return the right results. So whenever you call CDS MCP search docs bound actions with one result, it transforms this guy here into an embedding, loops through all the stored embeddings, calculates the similarity, and returns the however many results you want to have, in this case one. And you get the right snippet from the documentation. That's very nice thing.
That's incredible. I mean, so we're already just to underline this for my small brain, we have the large language model,
Right.
And then we have the MCP server, which itself uses, I'm going to use the phrase, a small language model
Right. Right.
on-machine local small language. So it's not just some sort of dumb, quote unquote, dumb API call to do a grep on the et cetera, et
No.
cetera. So we're
Yeah.
effectively already in the future here, because I was listening to a really good
Yes.
podcast episode from with Cal Newport talking about this area this morning on the run, and small language models are likely to be a big part of the future of where we're going here, not just from an energy consumption perspective or a privacy perspective, but generally for specialization, right?
Right, I hope so. I mean, I go to Reddit local llama every day because I'm a big fan of local models, which I can run on my machine. I must say, for coding, I'm not using them because they're not powerful enough, but I can see where this is going, especially for creating embeddings or so. Small models are already kind of good, and you can, if you have, I don't know, a knowledge database, to do list items or something which you want to semantically grab, you can use these kind of techniques to do it. I think it's quite powerful. Since we had some time, the LLM did its job. We didn't disturb it, and it correctly probably made it. So So here it sends the call request to set delivered. Sets a get request afterwards. Uses JQ, what you always preach, DJ.
I'm very impressed. I'm even more impressed with it.
Right. And it turned out that the status is D, and D stands, I guess, for delivered. And yeah, perfect. Set delivered bound action was successfully called. So we could do quite a lot more things. We could write automated tests using CDS MCP to figure out how CDS test works and things like that. Since I don't want to stretch the time too much, I know it was scheduled for only half an hour. So we leave that be, but it would work. If you want, I can also show it. Depends on you. But
well, we also have a couple of other questions, so maybe I can read those to you, David. So there was a question a while back from Majub. This is a great question. So for companies with sensitive data, is there a way to use SAP core AI models and create custom MCP clients to consume custom MCP server, but tools deployed on BTP? So I guess it's a question about data privacy and so on, right?
Right. So we have at SAP a service called the SAP AI Core service, which you can run on BTP. And then you can connect your agent, for example, OpenCode, to use that instead of whatever Anthropic or OpenAI or whatever provides. So that would also work. And so that you could also see it in the configuration of OpenCode, the AI agent I use. I also have AI Core as a model provider. So I also, it's not active, but it could be active. That I just say it should point to the SAP AI Core service. The thing is, I needed to create a proxy to actually delegate the request to it, but there are also other tools available which already do those things, so you don't have to do that from scratch. But you can point it to an OpenAI compatible endpoint, which in this case is our SAP AI Core service, and then it would also work. So that's totally valid, even though it requires a little bit more work to do that.
I mean, actually, what you just said then triggers another question in my mind. You said, an OpenAI core compatible endpoint. I mean, is it fair to say that the creation of MCP as an open protocol has really enabled a lot of work in this area, right?
Yeah, the thing is, so MCP enabled a lot of harmonization for clients to talk with MCP servers and LLMs. So that's nice. But the way the clients talk to LLM is always different for every provider. It's different for Anthropic and for OpenAI, and it's horrible. I hate it. But there is some kind of standard, I would say, and that is this OpenAI compatible endpoint, because they were the first to actually do that, to provide APIs for users to call LLMs. So others thought it might be a good idea to also provide OpenAI compatible endpoints with the same calling conventions as OpenAI. DeepSeek, for example, did it. Many others did it. And then you can just use your existing agents, point it to a different endpoint, and have the same functionality. But I wish there would also be a standard for that. So I wish there would be a standard for calling LLMs via APIs. It's so trivial, it's not rocket science. They should just come up with a standard, and that's it. And there should be a standard on how to configure MCP servers. These were my two wishes. Maybe the industry really did.
So David knows me very well, and he knows probably that I'm going to now quote Andrew Tannenbaum, the creator of Minix, which of course gave rise indirectly to Linux, because Linus Torvalds couldn't afford to run Minix on his machine and everything. And of course, all these models are probably running on Linux boxes now. Anyway, Andrew
Right.
Tannenbaum said, the nice thing about standards is that there are so many to choose from.
Yeah. Right. Also reminds me
So,
of XKCD. So there are too many standards. Let's create a new one to,
oh, with
and then there's n
yes.
plus one standard.
Situation, there are now one plus one competing
Right.
standards. Exactly.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
So yeah.
Abinaya, was asking. I don't quite understand this question, but I'll just say it verbatim anyway. How does it work when many people want to make changes on single operation or file? My question on data
Oh.
privacy. I'm not quite sure what you mean there, Abinaya. Maybe David does, but if not, please let us know in the chat if you can sort of qualify that a little bit.
So if it's about modifying files, the answer is Git or Jujutsu or whatever version control you use. If it's
Yeah.
about calling the bound action, I mean, we have authorization in place, so not everybody can call stuff and enable
So more of a CAP question.
authentication.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't know.
I think I think also maybe that question might have arisen because the way you were using open code to interact with the LLM and the MCP server, it is really like, having a co-developer, right? And you're
Right.
both, of course, both working on the same files, as it were. Of course, yeah,
Yeah.
modifying files at the same time, blah blah blah. It's just like anything else. But I really like the workflow that open code sort of exposes to you as a developer.
Right. The interesting thing is, some people are super crazy. They don't want only the AI to work on one feature. They want to work on, I don't know, 10 features in parallel because it's as we did it before, right? We asked something and then we went to do something completely else. Uh, Many people do that with features. So they ask 10 features in parallel. And what they do is they use a Git feature called work trees, where practically one branch has its own directory. So you have multiple directories for every of those branches. And then the LLM works on each of those directories simultaneously, creating those features. And in the end, they merge it together. So we can also, yeah, it's a bit ridiculous. And I don't know how many tokens they spent on that. But people also do that. It's yeah, asynchronous work. You say something and drink a coffee and come back later to see how it turned out.
Asynchronous. Everything's async. In CAP, everything's a service.
Right.
In CAP, everything's asynchronous. In CAP, everything's an event.
Right.
Exactly. People watch the art and science of CAP. So,
Yeah.
David, yes, you're absolutely right. We need to start thinking about wrapping this up now.
Right.
There's been some great chat. Thanks to Marianne for contributing a lot of the answers and comments and things to people. That's brilliant, and everybody else for joining as well. David, would you like to sort of wrap up and summarize?
Sure. So I can only encourage you to try out AI agents in general for your work. I use it personally productively. The MCP server was also written in large chunks by AI. It dramatically speeds up your development. I can guarantee you that. Be careful though. It's kind of a junior developer. Review the code. Don't do vibe coding. Do agentic coding. Review the code, write tests, make sure everything works. You don't want to create pull requests where your colleagues ask you something and you don't know the answers because you haven't understood the code. So always make sure to be on top of the game. But then AI agents are a great help. If you do CAP development and want to use AI agents, I encourage you to npm i-g captchas MCP server, configure your client using this binary CDS MCP, and give it a go. I hope you like it. If you have any issues, go on our GitHub project, create an issue. I'm sure I will have a look and hopefully fix it.
Fantastic. What a great way to end. And I've also shared again the link to this GitHub repo in the chat. Thanks to everybody who's joined this first CAP Devtoberfest session of the last Friday of Devtoberfest. We've got another one coming up shortly. Check out the events calendar. David, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to host you and talk to you and learn from you. So have a great rest of the day, everybody. It's bye-bye from me.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Likewise. Have a great day. Bye-bye.